Today's video is going to be about integration services and variables. One of the questions that came in on the website was about what are variables and how they all work. There's environmental variables, system variables, and there's user variables. We're going to go through all these different permutations. Now, I'm not going to dumb down this video by explaining what a variable is. What we are going to do, though, is just show the scope of what a variable is and how you would set them up. Now, to do this, what you would have to do is be inside a package. What I've done is I've created a new solution called variables, and in here we've just got this package called package.dtsx. Now, important thing is, the first time you go in here, you've got to click into this area. It's annoying, I know, but what would happen is quite often when you go to the SSIS menu, it will be very, very short in size. You need to click in there to get all of the menu options. So once you've clicked once on there, in SSIS, you should get a list of options, and one of the options is variables. Now what this does is it just opens up this side window off to the side here, and we've just got this empty space where we could then start putting in variables. Now before we go and start clicking on the buttons, let's just explore what they are. Well, add variable, I think you can work out what that is. Next one, which is greyed out at the moment, is delete variable, which we'll do in a moment. But then after that we've then got system variables, and then we've got show all variables, and then finally choose variable columns. Well, we'll go through all of these in a bit more detail. First of all, let's just talk about the system variables. So clicking on this will bring back a series of the default variables that we would have on the system. Now, because I've only got a limited space to work from, I'm just going to expand that. I'm not too bothered about the package area here. It's more important to discuss what these variables all do. Now, you'll notice that there is a scope section indicating it's at the package level. To give you an idea, in a short while, what I'll do is I'll actually put a particular workflow task onto the package, and you'll find that you can actually assign variables to those particular processes rather than the overall package. By and large, I tend to work at the package level, but there are specific reasons why you'd only want the scope to appear in one area. But please bear that in mind when you're creating your own variables, because dependent on what you've got clicked on in the workspace area may depend on where the scope is, and I'll show you that in a bit more detail later. But let's just go through some of these. What will happen is that you've got a series of system variables that fire on particular points. For example, creation date is when the actual integration service package runs. The container start time is more about that if you're nesting packages together, this will be the particular start time for that particular option. If we go down, you've got the execution instance GUID, which is the unique identifier. You may notice that the value's already been pre-populated because when you create a package, that GUID is immediately there. After that, loads of other options, interactive mode, the locale. Are you in America, France, Egypt, wherever? The machine name, that's my computer name, no hacking people. And we've got whether it's offline mode, package ID again, which is the GUID involved, and the package name, which at the moment is called package. And we can go on. As you can see, there's all sorts of different options on here. Username, who's currently on there, and what is the version of this build. Every time you save a package, it will actually increment the build number, so you can see where you're up to. So system variables, some of them are going to be completely and utterly useless. However, there are others which are very, very important. Specifically, ones we're going to be looking at are going to be things like the container start time, package name, are going to be very important for what I've got planned in the next video. Now what we're going to do though for the time being is I'm just going to hide these because you can't really do much with them, because quite a lot of the time they're hard coded, and as well they may be populated when you run the package. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this button to hide them, and I'm going to focus on creating a variable. So I'm going to click on add variable. This brings up a list here. As you can see, the scope is on package, and you've got a data type and a value. So what I tend to try and do as much as possible is try and prefix them with the data type I'm intending to put on here. So I'm going to put in str, and we'll just put in test. So I want this to be a string variable. So off to the side here, we've got the data type of int32. If we click on the drop down box, you'll see a different array of data types available. By and large, this is sort of more of a VB script sort of option. As you'll see, you've got int 16, int 32, int 64. So if you're expecting database options in here, they technically are there, but you'd have to translate them into VB scripting speak. I'm going to obviously want to put in some text, so I'm going to scroll down and choose string. You'll notice that there is no definition of how big the string is, and to be completely honest, I'm afraid I don't know how big the string is, but I've got a lot of text in there before now. I'm talking thousands of characters, so I've never had to worry about how big that string is. Now all I'm going to do is in the value section I'm going to type in hello, and then I'll just click away to confirm it, and there we are, that's our variable done. Now I'm just going to drag this a little bit further over to the left, and I'm going to bring up the toolbox, and I'm going to put a data flow task in. Now that's there, what I'm going to just show you is the difference you've got to watch out for when it comes to using variables. Now I'm just going to click, so I've got the variable screen and I've got the data flow task selected. Now just drag that over again just so I can get more of the variable screen. I'll just scroll, wrong scroll bar, scroll that over. Now I'll just call this, and again I tend to prefix all of these for my error messages, so I just generally call these data flows df, and I'll call it test. Now with that unselected, or deselected I should say, so I've just clicked into the space at the background, if I do a new variable you'll see it is a package variable. I'm just going to delete that because I don't want it, and yes I do, to get rid. Now if I click on to the workflow option, data flow option, and click on to add variable, you'll notice now that the scope has now changed. So what this will allow you to do is actually put in variables specific to particular scopes. The reason being is that you've created this variable and you may actually do the work inside the data flow area. So i.e. once you've got your data flow task created, you may then put in a reader source to read your SQL database, but then at that point you may need to do some scripting on it, and therefore you may use those variables within that particular data flow rather than going through the entire package. The advantages of that is just pure and simply that you can actually utilize, I'll just put this as a source at the moment, you can utilize the same variable names over and over again. So let's just go back into the main screen again, and on the control flow I'm just going to click into the space here. Now notice immediately that variable's disappeared, so it's called variable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the name of that, and remember the scope is df test, our data flow task. I'm going to click away and I'm going to make a new variable, and it's already called variable, and I'll just put in 1, 2, 3. Now you'll notice now I've got the same variable twice, but it's all to do with the scope of where it all sits. So if I now click on to the show all variables, you'll see that I've got it twice, but one of them is the scope of the package, the other one is the scope of that particular data flow. So in a nutshell, on this first video, which I'm almost out of time, I've just discussed pure and simply about what a variable is, the data types, and the scope, i.e. where the variable sits within the package. In the next video, I'm going to attempt to try and show you an example of how you would actually tie all these variables together to get some kind of intelligent response out of the system. So thanks for watching, and I hope you watch the next one.